welcome everybody to episode 9 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I am Josh Kaiser, and I had my diploma signed by Sally Struthers.
Dude, there were some good one-liners today.
Joining me today, the man who was too harshly potty trained as a child, Josh Adams.
What's going on, everybody?
And a man who doesn't need a bath, but in fact should be steam hosed, Kyle Hogan.
Steam hosed? Maybe I missed that, but I'm assuming this was probably in regards to Raven. What's going on, everybody?
It was in regards to Raven. They were referring, someone saw a sign that said Raven needs a bath, and Heenan says, no, he should be steam hosed.
Yeah.
I don't even know what steam hosed means.
I don't either, but it must be more severe than a bath.
I would assume like a power wash, maybe?
Yeah, something to that effect. That's probably what it is. Of course, we are here. We are back. We are in the 9th episode now of WCW Thunder. It is March 5th, 1998. And I don't know about you guys, but after last week's disaster of an awful Thunder, I was ready for something a little bit better.
Yeah, last week's was... What did we all come to? Last week's was probably the worst so far.
I think episode 8 was the worst Star Wars movie and also the worst Thunder.
I have yet to see episode 8.
So yeah, once again, I'm the only person that actually, first of all, someone enjoyed episode 8, but actually absolutely hated this Thunder.
We're talking about episode 8, dude, not episode 9. Come on.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Star Wars.
Well, we are talking about, but you said absolutely hated this Thunder. We were talking about we hated episode 8 of Thunder, which was last week's Thunder.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying you hated episode 8 of Star Wars, but
we hated both the episode 8s, dude. Come on.
Yes.
Oh, I got you.
Come on, Lee Marshall.
No. That's what I was getting at. I'm saying I actually liked episode 8 of Star Wars, but I hated this episode 9 of Thunder.
Right, but that's not what we were talking about.
That's not what we're talking about.
We said, I hated episode 8 of Star Wars, and I hated episode 8 of Thunder.
Oh, so I basically jumped the gun a little bit.
You did jump.
What you're saying?
Yeah.
Because I had
the
said
end of this podcast because we haven't got our overall thoughts in episode 9.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what we do? Yeah, that's right. This is the 8th time or 9th time we've been doing this, so I guess I should know better. My bad, gentlemen.
Well, all that said, let's just move right into episode 9, which, spoiler alert, Kyle is not a fan of. And I don't know how you can't be a fan of it, Kyle, because we open up, we got the cold opening this time. It's the Harvard Lampoon 1998 Real Man of the Year Award. Of course, if you're wondering, man, I'm not familiar with the other previous winners of the Harvard Lampoon Award, you're not alone because it never existed.
But didn't they actually run off of names of other past winners? At the earlier part of the show, they were saying, like, Sylvester Stallone, Billy Crystal, I think Bill Cosby, they said, won the award, which I'm sure, if that was true, that really ages well today.
Well, if so, I looked it up. It does not. The award never existed, because I was looking for previous winners to see if that was a thing. It wasn't. But it's worth noting, B.J. Novak was actually one of the alumni of the Harvard Lampoon. So,
wow, look at that. Oh.
That said, let's it's basically Macho Man's winning this fake award, and he cuts a promo here in Harvard saying that Hollywood's reign is over. He's holding some trophy. There's some nerds in there asking him questions about the future of the NWO, and he signs some autographs and says that Hogan is no longer the Big Kahuna, and this whole thing was paid for by the Coalition to promote the real man, Randy Savage. So, kind of a strange opening. I don't know. Did you guys? What did you guys think of this little opening here?
It's still very NWO-y. I mean, we'll notice in a lot of these promos, I feel like everybody is using the Hollywood kind of black silhouette type of look in a lot of these promos. And this is no different. I mean, Randy Savage is still a member of the NWO. Technically, he hasn't defected,
which is still weird to me. But it
is very strange because he basically nobody wants him in it. It's like can't Hogan just kick him out? Like I don't get it. I don't get this storyline.
I haven't understood it at all. Yeah, I
mean, I don't know yet whether I hate this storyline more than the powerbomb being banned. I don't know yet.
Like, I think that the whole thing they're doing with this storyline is they're trying to say that NWO is a separate organization from WCW, and how, like, WCW you have people who are on, faces and heels of WCW. It's almost like they're trying to build faces and heels of the NWO, and I just don't know if it's working.
I wonder if they'll find a way to make it work one day. I don't know. I don't know too much about the future. Well, maybe they'll turn it around.
We'll see. After this, of course, we're opening. It's live. We're here from the state capital, the Buckeye State. Of course, we are in Columbus, Ohio. We got the usual Tony, Bobby, Lee Marshall all here, and Tony doesn't sell it this week. Normally, he talks about we're going to see some of the greatest wrestling in the history of our sport. This time, he just says it's just some of the greatest wrestling around. So the fact that Tony is kind of underselling today leads me to believe we're not set up for some good wrestling going forward. If that's how Shivani feels about it.
Are you trying to suggest they might be phoning in this episode of Thunder?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm not saying, but I'm saying. We do know that tonight's main event is Raven versus DDP, which of course was set up for last week. Raven said the only way he wants this title match with DDP is main event of Thunder tonight, so we got that to look forward to.
I mean, dude, he's shooting for the stars on that one, dude,
Hey, aim high.
Aim middle.
Yeah, exactly. We opened the show up with the NWO promo, and everybody's here except for the Outsiders and Randy Savage. Of course, you're not expecting Savage at this point. And you get Bischoff gets on the mic, kind of has his rebuttal to Hogan's whole, or to Savage's whole Real Man Award. And then you get Hogan on there, and I had to point this out, and it's something I just heard about the other day on a podcast, and I want you guys to look for it going forward. But I think it was Jericho said on his podcast that Conan told him that he always made sure he stood behind Hogan for all the NWO promos.
I thought he said he always stood by Bischoff.
It might have been Bischoff or Hogan. Did you hear this too?
Yeah, it was Jericho's podcast, and it was it was the podcast where he was talking about Bischoff's podcast where he talked about Jericho.
Okay, so you listened to this.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, so he talks about that, and I'm like, it makes a lot of sense because you figure Bischoff and Hogan are always going to be on the camera, so standing behind him, at least he's always getting screen time. So I noted that, sure enough, there's Conan, and then also Conan's wearing his poncho, and was like putting it on and like putting it over his head like the cornholio. It was very funny. It was just random in the background. Hogan is gonna. That's it. Hogan's gonna get on there, cut his promo on Macho Man, says that he's the real Macho Man. That it's a joke that Macho won this Real Man Award, and he said, if you want to know who's a real man, just look at Miss Elizabeth's skinny legs to know that I'm the real man.
Did you guys understand that? I had no idea what that meant.
No idea. I was hoping somebody here was going to explain to me what a woman's skinny legs meant as far as being a real man.
I don't. The only thing I thought was like, did he just make like a "I fucked Miss Elizabeth" like crack? Or I didn't understand it. I'm assuming
that's what he's getting at, but I don't understand it.
I don't either. I didn't get the skinny leg thing. That really.
I mean, we get it that he has bigger legs than Miss Elizabeth. I don't think that was a thing that we were all trying to fight over here.
I don't know if he's trying to say, like, I don't know. I feel like I'd be grasping at straws to explain that one.
Yeah.
But anyways, he does go on to say that Sting's going to be stung and that Macho ain't so macho anymore.
Dude, that one was my favorite.
And then Bryan Adams is going to get on the mic here at the end and say that, Hogan, if Macho Man's here tonight, wants to wrestle, I'm going to take care of him for you. And that's sort of the promo here. And then Hogan's going to get up on the top rope and grind his pelvis like he is Val Venus, which was just bizarre to see Hogan do. After this, we're going to get our first sign of the night. And this one isn't really a good sign. It was just the most chaotic sign in the world. It had I Love You, Lori, NWO for Life, Thunder Rules, Raw's Taped, High Dale. It had another high name, and then something else written in the other corner I couldn't see by hand's fan. Because it was obscured by fans' hand. But it was just a lot of information to take in on a sign. So that guy really he wanted all of it out there. So
was that your dad loving Lori Kaiser? Or?
Could have been, man. Maybe he traveled down to Columbus to see this one.
Gold Jim, yeah.
After this promo, we're going to go to the commentary team for the first time of the day. Lee Marshall's going to open it up with a little peace sign action.
Didn't you think this was actually kind of late for them to be showing up?
It was pretty late. I mean, you not only had the cold opening, then you went to this promo, and Tony opens it up. Then you have the NWO promo, and now here finally you get him at the booth. So yeah, it was a little late for them. They're going to discuss, of course, the upcoming cage match at Uncensored with Hogan and Macho Man, and then Stagger Lee Marshall's going to say that Hogan is egomaniacal. So a lot of harsh words. And then we move to our opening bout of the night. Kyle, I think you were just as shocked as I was. Vincent's wrestling. I
watched him go, I saw him going down to the ring, and he's just wearing jeans, and I'm like, oh, is he just in front of the guy he's gonna like manage it or kind of like walk down the ring with? And then all of a sudden I see his name down there. I'm like, first of all, I'm like, holy shit, Vincent's wrestling. I don't think I've ever seen him wrestle in WCW ever.
I don't think I ever watched him wrestle since Virgil days of WWF.
Exactly. So and then I started looking like, he's wrestling, cool, but I'm like, you are not dressed at all to wrestle, Vincent.
And then, of course, his opponent comes out. It is Goldberg, so you knew where this one was heading. Vincent, though, gets the early attack before Goldberg gets in the ring. Immediate no-sell spear jackhammer. This match was over before it started. The only thing to note, the referee, when Vincent went up for the jackhammer, the referee lifted both of his hands up in the air and then slammed him down with Goldberg as Goldberg jackhammered him to the ground.
Dude, love that. I love it when they do that.
Gave it 1 star. The crowd is hot for Goldberg. I saw Vincent wrestle in a match in WCW, so for that was something. And the other thing I want to note, Vincent valets for how many members of the NWO, helps them, kind of throws a little bit of punch, some cheap hits in there to help his fellow NWOites in their matches. Not a single one of those bastards came out to support Vincent in his match. Just ain't right.
It is kind of a dick move.
Yeah. But overall, 1 star. Haddix, how'd you feel about this Goldberg match?
I gave it a 1 star as well, because there was no other moves. Normally he tries to do that. What's that move that Goldberg tries to throw in there?
He gets like an ankle. He gets like a little ankle lock every once in a while.
Yeah, that thing.
That shoulder tackle.
It's like an MMA type of move or something. But yeah, he didn't even try to do that. I think I got a little bit excited for this because since it was an NWO member, I thought maybe they were gonna start to push some angle about Goldberg and NWO. But I mean, literally, he's kind of
the Jim in finances. Like member of NWO, like nobody is expecting him to do anything.
Pretty much. Hoagie, what did you think about the match?
I gave it a 1.25 stars. The quarter was the fact that I actually marked out when I realized that Vincent was wrestling. So I had to give it a little bit more. I think we usually give him a standard Goldberg squash. Usually we give him like either between like a 1.25 stars and a 1.5 stars, probably, right? So I'm kind of surprised you guys.
3/4.
I said 1.75 is typical, yeah.
So why a star then? This is a typical squash.
Because
why
literally, I argue that it wasn't a typical squash because it was literally spear jackhammer.
Yeah, they didn't do
no-sold Vincent's punches on the way in. There was almost no match to this match.
All right. Well, I mean, I do agree. I mean, I basically gave it a star, but
I mean,
gave it the bonus
over
quarter.
A quarter star here. So
yeah.
Let's move on to our next match of the night. The former television champion Prince Iakea, drink every time you hear that, going up against Eddie Guerrero. We see the second side of the night. Real men watch Thunder. So on a night where we're debating who the real man is, we're all real men because we're watching Thunder, guys. All right.
Sorry, on that note, real quick, didn't you guys talk in a previous podcast that there was something about real men's movies or something like that after?
For movies for men who like
guys who like movies for guys who like movies.
Yeah. But I haven't seen any commercials for that since that episode we talked about it.
Well, usually I think that show only goes on once a month. I think it's like the last Thursday of every month, and it's after Thunder.
Like a Thursday night thing, but I don't know, maybe not.
It is a Thursday night thing, but I think it's not every Thursday they do it.
A weekly thing. I don't know.
I didn't think so.
As for this match between Prince Iakea and Eddie Guerrero, I actually thought it was all right. Mostly because I think Eddie Guerrero played just a classic heel. Like, if you're like an up and comer in wrestling and you want to learn how to wrestle and act like a heel, like this is a great match to watch for that because he just does all that typical, chicken shit heel kind of stuff where he says he complains that the ref that he was Prince Iakea was grabbing him by his hair. At one point, Prince Iakea is jumping off the ropes at him, and he pulls a ref in the way to kind of help regain some control of the match. Just a lot of those like classic storytelling there. Ultimately, he is going to win the match. Eddie Guerrero is going to win the match after Prince Iaukea gets up on the ropes. He drop kicks him off the ropes, leads to the frog splash. I gave it 2.5 stars. I thought it was a solid match for what you're seeing between the two of them, but I thought it mostly for the whole Eddie Guerrero storytelling here and playing the heel fantastically. Hoagland, what did you think about the former television champion here and his bare feet?
Well, I only have nothing but good things to say about him in particular. I gave it a 2.5 stars as well. My notes said pretty quick match in both pace and a lot of time. I wasn't very interested in seeing a long match between these two, so I was okay with it being rather fast. The one thing you mentioned about the bare feet, I never understand a person who has no protection or no, I guess what you say, added, I don't know if it's added weight or just, once again, just add, like a little added. If I kick you with my foot versus kicking you with my shoe, I would assume for the most part the shoe would hurt more. Is that fair to assume or no? Like if I have a boot, if I have a wrestling boot versus a barefoot, I would assume that I'd rather take
so, yes. I would assume yes.
So I've always found it very fascinating that people who wear bare feet who tend to use a lot of martial arts kicks in their repertoire, because I feel like you have no protection in your fighting, and you see it all the time. Like Umaga was the same way, and any of the Samoans, they use kicks all the time, but they never wear shoes.
Yeah, it might be just a culture thing there.
I think The Rock wore shoes for what it's worth.
And Roman Reigns as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not all Samoans.
Yeah. Come on, bro.
Haddix, what did you think about this match?
I gave it a 2.5 as well. I think the best thing about it is kind of what you alluded to. I feel like Eddie and Chris Jericho might be two of the best heels as far as how they act in the biz, if you will. I really enjoy watching. The Eddie I got in WWE was more babyface when he came in as Latino Heat or whatever. Or he didn't come in as Latino, but kind of turned into it a little bit. But I really enjoy watching him as a heel. He does a very good job.
Well, the funny thing is, he was a heel for a lot of the time during WWE, but it was just that he was one of those like heels you love to like cheer for.
Like a but he wasn't heel back then. Or
he wasn't he wasn't like this. Like this is like
right. Yeah, this
right.
He
was doing heel shit in WWE, but everyone thought it was hilarious.
Yeah,
right. It's sort of where Jericho heads to with his.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
After this, we're going to get a classic WCW promo this week, Kyle. But they are going to show some video packages of the upcoming matches. You got Disco Inferno going up against Lodi, Dean Malenko versus Kidman, and your main event, Scott Steiner versus Ray Traylor. So, hell of a lineup this Saturday night.
This reminded me that Ray Traylor is still in the company. I didn't even think
he has not left yet.
He's not the BBM yet.
Not yet again. Anyways,
yes.
After this, we're going to get the worst segment possibly in the history of Thunder so far. And it's Kimberley and the Nitro Girls as they discuss this Monday night on Nitro. They're going to be at Duke University. They're also reading straight off of cue cards. It's just a really bad segment altogether. Very cringy coming off the way they're reading this, and just I don't know. I just was like, just end it already. Eventually, they're going to say, how about let's hear it for Duke University. You're in fucking Ohio State country. This is not an area where Duke University is going to get cheered. Naturally, they get booed, and that's your segment. I don't know what this was.
Well, first of all, it was way too long. That went about as long as the Prince Iaukea Guerrero match. And secondly, I learned that Fire enjoys Domino's Pizza. Because she had 2 shout-outs for Domino's Pizza, and then Spice took the mic away just to mention that Fire really likes Domino's Pizza. So Domino's definitely getting a good shout-out for this little plug.
That they are. Unfortunately, not the best endorsement from the way these Nitro Girls were portraying on this whole promo here. And sadly, Kimberly was a valet before all of this. So,
and also, is it me or is she? It wasn't that long ago. Like, she looked better as a valet than right now as a Nitro Girl. Like, I'm less attracted to Kimberly right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
she's going to be disappointed about that.
She fucking should be. She had a chance. She could have had a chance at this.
She could have had the hoaxer.
She could have. But much like Fire, Kyle's prefers Domino's Pizza.
I do. I'm a big fan of Domino's Pizza.
You know who else is probably a fan of Domino's Pizza? It is the contestant
El
next
Dandy.
match, El Dandy, as he's up against Juventud Guerrera, and Tony Schiavone, of course, is going to let everyone know that he thinks Hougie is an attractive man. So, I guess Kyle, you might not like Kimberley's a Nitro girl, but Tony prefers Hougie without his mask on. So we're learning a lot about everybody tonight. And the crowd, I noticed at the beginning of this match, is very distracted, and they don't really talk about it on the commentary team, and then the camera kind of cuts over, and you find out it's because the flock are coming in to take their seats. And I don't think the commentary team even mentioned that the flock were coming through or what the distraction was, but they're here.
If they did, it was shrugged. Because, I mean, it's every week they do it. At this point, it's like there's nothing really to report.
Fair enough. I wanted to point out the fact, Kyle, I know you and I like those 10-count punches in the corner of the ring where they actually finish the 10-count. And this one was finished with a drop kick, which you don't see very often. So I kind of appreciated the, modern twist, or the cruiserweight twist.
Dude, I was counting it. I was counting out loud, and then when he did the drop kick, I'm like, 10 out of 10. That was awesome. I love it.
The 10 out of 10 on commentary was Heenan in this match, as he... at the beginning of the match, or on the way out, Tony Schiavone's going on about how Hougie seems rejuvenated, kind of, almost like a little more aggressive since he lost his mask in that match against Jericho, and they kind of blow it off, and then Heenan in this match basically says the exact same thing. It takes it almost like it's his own idea and thought, which I really it's just classic Heenan right there.
Well, what Heenan does is like whatever the other guys are saying, he then says like, well, I was talking to Conan, who earlier has said that ever since he lost his mask, he thinks he's a coward, and he's lost his identity, and Hougie is just like a lost soul wandering around. And then when Hougie was like taking control of the match, and then Heenan's like, I feel like he's really gotten rejuvenated since he lost his mask. And I started laughing. I'm like, you're an asshole.
We are getting our third sign of the night here. It says Oprah eat a burger. And
those are my favorite signs. They're so random.
Oh, they're so random. It's great. Hougie is going to win in this match to no one's surprise as he hits the 450 splash, which might be top 5 most over moves right now in WCW. Right? You got
very impressive.
Diamond Cutters up there, the choke slam,
jackhammer,
power bomb, jackhammer, power bam, jackhammer, and I gotta be honest, 450 splash probably. It's got to be right there in that to sort of round out that top 5. As for the match, I gave it 2 stars. I thought it was solid for El Dandy and Hougie, but I also thought it was a little sloppy at times. I don't know. I just felt like a choreographed sloppiness sometimes that happens sometimes with cruiserweights. So that's my thoughts. Haddix, what'd you think?
I gave it a 2 as well. I agreed with you on that. These cruiserweight matches are definitely more staged because of how high flying the moves are and all that. But when it's not smooth, it's almost very noticeable. And I kind of noticed it. And I think I would have rather have the length of this match be the Guerrero match and have this one be shorter. Because I liked them both. I thought they were both decent matches. But I feel like that the previous match could have used more time. But I mean, that's just nitpicking. I don't even know.
Been longer if you just cut the Nitro Girls segment out.
Well, that's true. That is very true. But yeah, I gave it a 2 star. It seemed a little sloppy at times.
Hoagie, I feel like you felt a little bit stronger about this match.
I felt about the same as I felt about the Guerrero match. I also gave it a 2.5, same as the Guerrero match. I kind of like this a little bit more, although I do appreciate the whole Guerrero playing the heel very well. I think Juventud's got a much better story going on right now since he lost his mask. I think the reason why this match was a little bit longer is because it gave the commentator team time to tell the story a little bit more, and I know that they're also kind of. It seems like they're building this thing up with Conan. They've mentioned him a couple of times. Obviously, we'll talk about the post-match stuff afterwards, but I think that's the reason why the match went a little bit longer. I do agree that it seemed a little bit more choreographed. El Dandy is not the unstoppable dynamo maybe he once was. He reminds me a lot of Jack Black when he walks down to the ring. But I did enjoy the match, and you gotta love yourself some El Dandy.
Yes, you got to. After the match, Conan's going to come out. He's going to get on the mic and basically tell Hougie to get ready for Monday because it's about to get on between the two of them. and he calls him by his real name. I think he just says Aníbal Gonzalez, but his full name is Eduardo Aníbal Gonzalez Hernandez. Haddix, I think I nailed the Spanish pronunciation on that.
I was about to say
that was about as white bread as you could do it. But all right, I can't roll R, so don't ask me to do it.
Hougie then gets on the mic and says, "Hougie juice, never surrender," in some really broken English.
I was gonna say, he's not a good micsman, if you will.
He's not. He speaks English about as well as I speak Spanish, so I'll give him.
There you go.
Pass there. Yeah. And then Tony Schiavone mentions soon after or right after about how Conan called him by his real name and how they'd explain it later about what that meant. That's the last we hear about it. So I'm not sure. Anybody want to venture to guess or anything what the idea there was behind Conan calling Hougie by his real name?
Because he lost his identity. They do that when someone loses their mask. They're no longer known as the name of their wrestler. Yes, once you lose your mask, you're no longer known as far as that community as Juventud Guerrera. Juventud Guerrera was the mask. You lose the mask, now you're you. You're now Scott Hall. So that's why he called him by his full name.
Wait. He's not Scott Hall?
He is. He's Razor Ramon. You didn't know that?
Oh man, dang! I didn't know that.
This is crazy. We're learning all kinds of things. Good Lord. No, that makes sense, and that was sort of my guess, but I wasn't positive. So thank you, Stagger Lee, for that explanation.
You're welcome.
After this, we're going to get the NWO music hits, and all of a sudden you hear, "Oh yeah!" And then Schiavone goes, "Oh yeah!" As it must be Macho Man getting his own NWO music with him just saying,
which they do play later as well. Yeah,
they do. Yeah. Of course, he calls out Hogan and Bryan Adams to come out. And he tells Hogan basically that half the NWO has been reaching out to him and they're ready to stab him in the back. So kind of hinting that maybe there is some dissension amongst the NWO.
If you really had that information and you wanted to create a coup like that, why would you say that out loud?
I don't. Yeah, right. I don't. Maybe just to make him paranoid. Make him think like, who can I trust? Who can I trust?
Playing mind games.
Little mind games. Little gold dust action there.
That's right. The crowd. Columbus is hot for Macho Man. There's some heavy Macho chants. And line of the promo here comes from Savage as he says something along the lines of, "After I get done crushing Bryan Adams." Haddix, you probably didn't catch this one, but Bryan Adams wrestled under the moniker Crush in WWF, so that was where he was getting at there.
I did not know that.
And he also said he was going to take Hogan to the glue factory.
He did say that. Bischoff and Hogan kind of laugh it off. And Hogan is going to go ahead and accept Macho Man's challenge, which was the result of Bryan Adams' actual challenge to Macho Man earlier. So there you have it. And all of a sudden now our main event of DDP and Raven is no longer our main event because it's been topped that United States Championship means nothing next to Bryan Adams versus Macho Man. After this, we get a promo here, and there's really no better way to sell a match for Uncensored than a Lex Luger promo, and that's what we've got here. It's Lex basically talking about how Scott Steiner, turned his back on his brother, and he's going to be here to basically defend Rick's honor. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought this is really strange, just in general, that they're booking Scott versus Lex, because you would think the natural progression from Scott Steiner turning on his brother to join the NWO would be Scott versus Rick, right?
Yeah. No, I actually agree with this. I think you slow burn this because I think what people really want is for this to boil over more with Rick and Scott, and I think it will. I think they do end up having their match, but I definitely agree with that not being the first match of when they turn on each other. I kind of actually like that they're waiting a little bit longer.
But what's Rick's excuse for not? So I'm going to let Lex go fight my battle for me. Like, what's his reason?
You know what's the big reason why? Is because WCW probably sees Lex as more of a pay-per-view draw than Rick.
Well, yeah.
I mean, obviously that's what it, but it just doesn't.
But we're saying from a storyline.
I mean,
let the story build more. They'll make it work. If
you're going to do that, what I would do is write in where maybe Scott and the NWO beat the shit out of Rick to the point where Rick just can't wrestle in an upcoming pay-per-view. So Lex is going to take his place for now, kind of thing, and help push it along for a little bit. Because you're right, Kyle, they do eventually wrestle, but I don't think it's anytime soon. Like, it might be Halloween Havoc or something like that before they actually do finally match up. But
But then again, you got to remember, Halloween Havoc is I mean, you've listened to Bischoff and everything.
Pay-per-view, but
it's a huge pay-per-view.
It's just a long ways away at this point. So I don't know. We'll see. I understand where you're coming from. Scott Steiner is going to be in our next match against Chase Tatum. All three of us have to agree. When you saw that dude in the ring,
dude, I did a triple take on Chase Tatum.
He's like Brock Lesnar.
Exactly. I'm like, is that Brock Lesnar?
Yeah. He looks awesome. I don't know if you guys read his Wikipedia page. He wrestled for about 2 years. Didn't have much of a push or anything like that. And then he actually passes away, I think 10 years ago or something like that. Didn't live very long. Drug overdose, something like that. But man, he looked like $1 million.
He did. He really did. And back then, when those big wrestlers were the thing, I'm surprised. Maybe he just isn't a good wrestler. I have no idea.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, you're not going to
find it weird. Did you find out? Because obviously we know Scott Steiner's going to win this match, but just because of the stature and how big this guy was and how great he looked, did it kind of just look awkward watching Scott Steiner just bully him?
It did, but I think that was the idea, is because they open up by saying something about how Scott Steiner has the most noticeable biceps in wrestling or something to that effect. And here you got this massive, well-in-shape dude in Chase Tatum, and then Scott's just going to beat the shit out of him. I think it was literally trying to say, like, look how strong Scott Steiner is.
Yeah, he did pick him up a few times, so...
So he does, to be fair, manhandles him.
He does.
From a squash point, it was a solid squash match. I'm only going to give it a star and 3/4, mainly for the ending. He puts him in the Steiner recliner, and typically when people tap from the Steiner recliner, they kind of tap on the thigh, the way they're held up. He taps on the mat and then puts his hand back into the submission position. It was just very awkward looking. I've never seen somebody actually tap out from this move on the mat like that. So for me, it was a star and 3/4.
Yeah, I didn't penalize for that. I gave it 2 stars. I think this was about as good of a. I think it's because of like we were talking before, because they used a guy like Chase Tatum who really kind of I wouldn't say towered over Scott Steiner, but had definitely a couple inches in height over Scott Steiner, and he was already built like a brick house. So to watch him just get his shit kicked in by Scott Steiner just looked like a much more impressive squash match. So for me, I almost gave it more than 2 stars, but I did hold back a little bit because, yeah, I agree. The Steiner recliner tap on the mat makes no sense, especially when he puts himself back in it afterwards.
Yeah, I gave it 1.5 for basically the same reasons, and maybe that's why they never pushed him, because he doesn't do shit like he's supposed to. But basic squash match.
Yep. After the match, we're going to get a promo where Giant apparently was back on Nitro and he powerbombed Kevin Nash. And we're going to see that same powerbomb about 75 times during this promo.
Is he fined $50,000 for each replay?
They do mention, though, that Giant was fined and arrested. So apparently the powerbomb is, banned from all wrestlers. So glad to see that they're calling it right down the line.
I feel bad for Scott Norton.
After this promo, we're going to go into our next match, and it's Curt Hennig, who's accompanied to the ring by Rick Rude, against Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Not much to say about this match, which is kind of disappointing because I feel like Curt Hennig's matches on Thunder have been awful, and I think he can do a lot better. Half the match is spent with Rick Rude looking under the ring, trying to get weapons from different parts of the ring. Eventually, he's going to get a 2x4, which he hits Jim Neidhart with. And Neidhart basically no-sells that 2x4 hit because it's going to lead to the Fisherman Suplex, but Neidhart's sort of going to be stubbornly fighting the Fisherman Suplex before Hennig's able to flip him over for it, and that's your win. I give it a star and 3/4 for basically outside of the trying to push this Curt Hennig-Bret Hart feud and how they're going to do anything to get at his fellow brothers and brother-in-law and all that thing. I didn't find this match very entertaining.
Oh, yeah, I gave it a star and 3/4 as well. I think the only reason that I even rated it that high is because they are pushing a story compared to just having a random match. So, I guess it'll be a little interesting to see where it goes. But, yeah, the no-sell on a 2x4 really makes no sense to me.
I gave it a star and a half because I felt like the story that they're telling, I know there's a story, but I feel like they weren't telling it. Like, we know why they're having the match, but I would have appreciated a little bit more, maybe even just a little bit of a very short promo. Not to mention, if you actually really look at the match, it's basically Neidhart just doing a bunch of very simple wrestling moves to kind of outsmart Kurt Hennig, which is almost blasphemous. And then Kurt Hennig escapes to the outside to talk to Rick Rude for a couple more seconds, then goes back in. He literally does one move, which is his finisher, and that's it. I didn't care, and I don't think even the guys in the ring really cared for this match.
I agree with that sentiment, actually. It did seem like they were disinterested. Of course, after the match, Hennig and Rude are going to continue to attack Neidhart, and that's going to leave the Bulldog to come down for the save, and that's your match. After this, we're going to get Mike Tenay in the ring. He's about to interview the challenger for the United States title, Mr. Raven. As Raven's coming out, Heenan's going to mention that Raven's rules seem to change on a daily basis, which I feel like the three of us had discussed that before and agree completely. Like, we don't know exactly what Raven's rules mean because one time they have one connotation, the next time they have something different.
Usually it means no DQ, but yeah, I think when Raven's rules, he says it's Raven's rules, which means, and then he kind of then proclaims what the rules are today. But if he doesn't actually proclaim anything, and we just hear it's Raven's rules, then it's kind of assumed that there could be outside interference.
Right. Tenay's going to ask him about his past with DDP, and basically Raven says he helped DDP when no one else would. Talks about he spent 3 long years in Barbed Wire City. Of course, that's ECW. And he says tonight's going to be Paige's Waterloo. And then they mentioned that there's a Triple Jeopardy match, which, WCW is still trying to find a way to have...
Not say triple threat?
Not say triple threat, but have another way of calling a match where it's 3 people wrestling at the same time. And Tenay's going to ask him about this Triple Jeopardy match and basically say, if you beat Diamond Dallas Page tonight for the title, will you defend it against Page and Benoit in this Triple Jeopardy match? And Raven says no, which is just a way for me to say, well, Raven is not winning the title tonight because obviously he's not going to win it and not defend it again at the pay-per-view. So I thought that was a little silly to put that in there.
So you guys have seen a lot more WCW than me. I think Raven does horrible promos. Do you guys agree, or are you guys not as?
I emphatically disagree.
Yeah,
I emphatically disagree.
I think Raven's fantastic on the mic as well.
Like, I feel like it's he writes it all down before, and it doesn't seem genuine. It's not like he's out there really pissed. He's like, it's like kind of monotone, not really monotone, but just like
he doesn't talk. He doesn't talk like a wrestler. He talks like he's a misfit. Like he when he writes, or what he's, I mean, I'm sure he writes a little bit of what he says, maybe, but
he has to write it all down. There's no way that he doesn't.
He does. Let's be honest. He's not saying Sting's about to get stung. I mean, he says Sting's a little bit more eloquently than that. I like his promos because they just seem like his character's always been that he was an overprivileged kid who, when he was younger, and then as he got older, he kind of like abandoned that and became a misfit. So he's got like the pedigree and the intelligence of like a rich kid, but like walks around like he's a homeless guy. So he's got like kind of that talk.
He feels sorry for himself a lot too. So he's very whiny, and
I just can't stand him. I can't stand him.
See, but I think he's getting to you, dude. I think you're working yourself.
Well, that's what I mean. I guess that's a good babyface qual. But it's not like I can't stand him because of his antics. I just can't stand him because I think he cuts bad promos. But anyway, I digress.
Maybe it's not your kind of promo, but I think the way he does promos, I think is actually very unique and well done. But I think it just might not be your old cup of tea or your can of Surge, if you will.
And I will. After this, we're going to get a Chris Jericho promo, which is just one that's kind of, just a video package, where he says, I'm your role model, your paragon of virtue, talks about his raving lunatic Jerichoholics, and mentions that he's his role model about 100 times in this promo. And that's it. And, we credit Jericho when credit is due. I thought this was one of Jericho's worst promos of all time. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that, but I just thought this was a really bad promo.
I've never really been a huge fan of Jericho as a, I guess a pre-produced content of Jericho. I think Jericho feeds off of and plays off the crowd. So when he's just in a room just talking, it was, first of all, we've learned a lot, or at least I think we've all kind of figured out with Jericho that almost everything that he did in WCW was he had to do it himself. Like nobody really like helped him do a lot of what his background story is, his production, everything. He kind of just went with it and did as much as he could. So I understand that this doesn't look great, but also I don't think that he has the resources. Nor does he has the pull in the company to give him something better than what he's given. So I always take that into account whenever he comes out to the ring. That for the most part he's winging it, and sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's a lot better when he's out in the ring.
I agree with you there because this was just bad for me. But Jericho's going to be in the next match, and before he comes out, we're going to see our fourth sign of the night, and it's a lifetime membership card to Jerichoholics Anonymous. Expiration date, sobriety. But Chris Jericho is going to be wrestling Cyclope and Haddix. I know you got to be digging yourself some Cyclope.
Dude, when this guy walked out, I was like, what the... It's like who
there's a lot going on.
Win this?
Well,
like,
first of all, there's a lot going on with this guy's outfit.
Like it was just so random. So do you guys know who he is? Have you seen him before? Or is this
Cyclope wrestles for a while? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's here. He's no different than an El Dandy or
Silver King or something like that.
Yeah, he's kind of in that level.
Super Colo, that level.
Silver King is in really good shape. He reminds me of that Tatum guy. So
yeah, they're basically the same. Silver King is just the Chase Tatum of the cruiserweights.
Yeah, exactly.
Jericho's going to come out here though and get on the mic. And to your point, Kyle, he cuts a better promo here. Of course, he's talking about Dean Malenko and says Dean Malenko is the man of 1,000 holds. Well, I stayed up and thought about it, and I'm the man of 1,004 holds, which I don't know when it's happening. It's happening very soon. It might even be this coming Nitro. Haddix, do yourself a favor when we get done here. Go to YouTube and type Jericho Man of 1,000 Holds segment and just enjoy. It is one of the best Jericho WCW segments of all time. As for this match itself, it is not one of Jericho's best, and Cyclope is probably a big part of it. And he goes to the top, flips to the outside, and completely misses Jericho and just lands. I don't know whether that was a planned spot or not. If it was planned, they both kind of just... It was just ugly looking. But they do play it off like he missed, which was good, and they didn't do the fake... where sometimes people miss a spot and then act like they still got hit, so... they play it off, at least in that regard. Jericho's going to roll him back into the ring, apply the Lion Tame very soon after. That's your match. I give it a star and 3/4. For me, this was Jericho's worst match on a night I saw Jericho's worst promo, so just not a good night for Jericho, in my opinion. Hoagie, what'd you think?
I'm giving Jericho a little bit of a pass. I gave it a 1.5 stars, though. I gave it even a worse rating, but I think most of that, Jericho, I think, did what he could on the fact that Cyclope had, I think, 2 big spots that he needed to execute correctly. He fucked up both of them. So, and really all Jericho could do is just kick him. And he falls on the ground, just give him a couple kicks, put him in the Lion Tamer, and just end it. I actually thought this match was probably set to go a little bit longer, but after the second probably big spot fuck up, Jericho's probably like, you're getting the Lion Tamer, buddy. We're done with this match.
And he holds it on him for a while, too. I gave it a 1 3/4 as well. I just love me some Jericho. In the beginning of the match, when like Cyclope kind of like walks towards Jericho in the corner, and Jericho like kind of things up in the corner like he's scared of him or something. I just love his mannerisms. I love his psychology. He's good. He's by far...
This guy's got a future in front of him here.
Yes, exactly. How long... I was going to say this Thursday wasn't his night, but Jericho is the highlight of most Thunders, if you will.
I'm still curious how long Jericho is going to be rocking the Hougie mask. It's been a couple weeks now.
A little bit, anyways. Yeah, I would imagine at least through the next pay-per-view or so. After the match, to your point, Haddix, Jericho's refusing to release a Lion Tamer. That's going to bring out Dean Malenko, who's going to run in for the save, and by that I mean he's going to slowly march from the back into the ring to finally break Jericho of the hold. So he's not really there to save Cyclope because if he was, he could have done it a lot faster. But we're going to Texas as he puts the Texas Cloverleaf on Jericho and then refuses to release it, which is brings the commentary team to quite happiness, as they say. I hope he's still holding it on when we come back from commercial.
Which he wasn't.
And unfortunately, when we come back from the commercial, the Renegade is back, and he's in the ring. Haddix, you probably are not familiar with the Renegade.
Nope.
He had a short-lived stint in WCW where he was actually pushed very hard coming in. He was supposed to be a ripoff of the Ultimate Warrior. I think he even had the TV title for a period of time.
He was also getting a big push because he was like the right-hand man of Hogan during like Hulkamania at the start. When Hogan first showed up in WCW, I think Hogan and Renegade were like kind of running wild together for a little bit.
Right. Of course, at this point, he is, not even introduced pretty much for this match. He's jobbing to Scott Norton here, or so we thought. Scott Norton puts him into the corner, and he starts chopping him and hitting him. And I don't know about you guys. I'm like, how long is he just going to pound on him in the corner of this ring?
It's almost like they thought Giant was supposed to come out sooner than he did.
Because it was almost like he stopped and like turned and looked and then went back. And I'm like, do something else, please. But like
Scott Norton only knows how to powerbomb, and it's illegal. What's he supposed to do?
The Giant is going to make his way out. He's going to come in and powerbomb Scott Norton, which, of course, is going to give Scott Norton the win by disqualification. This is going to infuriate Renegade, who thought for sure this was his big break. He's going to yell at the Giant, which leads to a choke slam for his efforts. And, of course, with the powerbomb happening, the Giant's going to get another fine. He's going to get arrested. Out comes Doug Dillinger and the rest of security. But they give Giant some time to cut a promo before they arrest him. And he says, Kevin Nash, I hear your back hurts. Well, my neck hurts. We got the playing field's even. Checkmate. Show up at Uncensored. And then he's going to be handcuffed with chains and walked out. And Lee Marshall does not think that it's necessary for the Giant to be arrested. But, of course, he's cheering on and thinks it's totally necessary when Nash is arrested. So I find Lee Marshall to not be a bipartisan announcer. And I don't know how I feel.
Oh, that's a shocker. Also, did anyone else notice that the first thing the Giant did when he went into the ring was headbutt Scott Norton with a neck brace on? What kind of... That'd be like if you came in with crutches and you super kick somebody.
That is a great point. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. That is... Yeah.
Like, I as soon as he did that, I'm like, everything about wrestling's like... I'm like, what? Wrestling's fake? Like, I just had like one of those moments.
So, anything else you guys want to talk about with the Giant here? Before we move on?
The only thing I noted, and I think we've talked about this before, is the Giant in his prime, his choke slam is impressive. Like,
oh yeah, the Giant really, yeah. I mean, he's an impressive athlete,
just like how, it's not just a pickup throwdown. It's like he kind of spins around. Like, I mean, it is an impressive choke slam. I really enjoy it.
After this, we get our fifth sign of the night. It says butts. And
it sounds like a sign I'd make.
We're going to move to what was once a main event, but no longer. It's just part of their double-featured main event, I guess. It's your United States Championship. Raven against Diamond Dallas Page. Of course, Raven's going to announce it's Raven's rules. We're going to see our sixth sign of the night. This one is by Lodi, who's holding up the Flock beats Seinfeld, because, of course, it's Thursday night. It's 1998. Seinfeld's one of the hottest things on the air, and Thunder's out here competing with him, so... The Flock will definitely beat Seinfeld. And on top of Raven's rules, DDP's going to get in the ring and say, it's DDP rules, which means Nick Patrick, get out of here. I don't need any referees, which seems like a silly rule because how else are you going to declare winners to the match?
Well, yeah, that's what I thought, too. That's the first thing I said, like, wait, there's no ref, so, like, clearly no title is going to change hands at this point.
That said, I guess Nick Patrick hangs around because he realizes that's a stupid rule, DDP, because he's kind of like awkwardly following them to the entrance ramp where they do end up battling. This, of course, brings out Benoit, so Benoit decided to enter into this triple Jeopardy match here.
Does anyone else like look at when people come out to like interfere? Like, here's Benoit. I get it. Okay, here's Benoit fighting. The only thing I think about is, like, why is Benoit walking around the back with no shirt and action slacks, basically?
And just, like dress pants or something?
It's just like Dockers. He's like Dockers and some nice shoes and no shirt. And it's like, fuck it, I'm going to go fuck these guys up in a match. Like, who's walking around wearing that? Yeah, exactly.
I did have to laugh. DDP's wrestling in jeans. Raven's got jean shorts. And Benoit's wearing these dress slacks. So
no one is dressed to wrestle.
Lee Marshall basically does let you guys know, if you're looking for Jeopardy, don't be expecting Alex Trebek. So... the three of them, of course, are going to be battling around. Eventually, the entire flock's going to get into this match, and out comes a mystery man. It is the Yeti, or his newest form, Reese. Of course, that means nothing to you yet at Haddix, but he is the newest member of the flock. It's just a weird time to debut him in a match that was basically thrown out from the beginning. But
on Thunder.
Yeah, on Thunder. Here he is, of course, the Saturn. Saturn's putting rings of Saturn, I think, on Benoit. Everybody's out here. Van Hammer's going to bring a guardrail in, which is going to lead to 2 even flow DDTs, one to DDP and the other to Raven. This would be a great time for Raven
Benoit.
Yes, God.
I would love to see Raven DDT himself. I would want to see that one day.
No, Raven does DDT both of his opponents. At this point, it'd be a great time to, of course, pin Diamond Dallas Page for the United States title. But instead, I guess the match was thrown out. To be honest, I thought Raven had the match won, and if it's Raven's rules, he should have won that match. So, I don't know. I'm disappointed.
Did it go? It goes back to. It goes back. I meant to bring this up earlier. I think it was during that Hougie match, when the announcers, I can't remember which one, said that the ref could have counted both men out. But this is a cruiserweight match, so it's more exciting on the outside. So he just let it go. Like, oh, okay, I guess that's cool.
That's the announcers just trying to make sure you guys don't question the rules too closely.
Yeah. So yeah, who knows, dude?
Then we're going to move to our main event. Of course, it's going to open up with a lot of pyros, as all main events on Thunder do. Brian Adams versus Macho Man. Miss Elizabeth's going to come out with Macho Man. She's going to get on the mic and say that Macho is the only real man. And Macho Man's going to get on there and says, if you want to know who a real man is, just ask your wife, in reference to Hogan. So I found this as kind of like a lame comeback because, Hogan literally made that same comment that basically he fucked Miss Elizabeth with the skinny legs comment earlier, and now Macho Man's going to turn around and make the same comment to him. Like, come on, bro. You got something better you could come up with.
Come on. Kaiser, you and I, we've looked at the old Nitros. You've seen it when both of them are on the mic together. They basically just feed off of each other.
And they say the same thing back and forth, yeah.
Yep.
So this is going to lead to basically a non-match. Macho Man's going to start taking on both men. When at one point they get control, Miss Elizabeth's going to get involved to distract them, to get Macho Man back in control. And then out is going to come a mystery man dressed in NWO gear. He's going to stone cold stun Macho Man. This is apparently not the first time he's not debuting here on Thunder like Reese did. Hougie, of course, you and I know him as the Disciple. He's apparently been on Nitro a few times. Haddix, if you didn't know, the Disciple, this is Brutus the Barber Beefcake in his third, fourth, or fifth character here on WCW. And then out comes the rest of NWO to help beat up Savage. He's going to get just manhandled by everybody. Sting's going to finally come out to clear the ring. And that is your Thunder. That is your main event that, yet again, if you even count it as a match, did not finish. Just disappointing.
Neither did the other main event either. So it's like
double main event, no finishes for either. Really, no matches for either of them.
The other thing here is, okay, NWO is huge, right? And they're all beating the shit out of Macho Man. I understand Sting has his little bat, but you're telling me that all 12 of you can't take Sting on?
Someone, one or two people might take a bat to the face, but the other 5 and 6 are going to be fine.
Yeah, it's
right?
not like there's only 2 people in the ring, and then here comes Sting with a bat.
That's why you have Vincent. He takes the bat to the face.
That is his job.
I feel like WCW. I want to go. What I should do is watch Raw at the same time, because my memory of Raw was things flowed a little bit better than they do on WCW, because a lot of this shit just doesn't make sense.
Oh, it's definitely much more structured. I'll give you. Raw. It's a wrestling show. This is a TV show. There's a totally different structure in how they do things. And no, you're not wrong. On Raw, it just seemed like everything kind of pieced together piece by piece, because I think they had a much better idea outside of the interviews and them going out to the ring and kind of ad-libbing what they want to say to each other. The actual what happens in the ring, I think, is much better choreographed. On Raw.
It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
That said, Thunder is over. Haddix, what'd you think about this week's episode?
Well, like we kind of alluded to earlier, way better than last week's, just because last week's was horrible. I actually had a lot of big names. The only two big names that really were left off were Hall and Nash, who are usually on every week.
And Bret Hart, who, by the way, I feel like he's been on like one episode of Thunder, and I thought that was one of the main reasons they signed Bret Hart was for Thunder.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, better, trending in a better direction, but that's tough to say with how crappy last week's was. So, but I did enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the big name people, to some extent.
Hoagie, we're going to pretend that everybody fell asleep during the opening of the show and get your thoughts on today's episode of Thunder.
Okay. Oh, that's actually a good move. I actually liked this one less than last week. I thought last week they tried and it was bad. I think this one, nobody was interested in doing anything. There was no part of the storyline of anything that was going on that made me interested in the show. There were two matches that were barely 2-star matches. I think the last week there was at least one match that shined above all the rest that you could at least hang your hat on. This one had really nothing. Once again, we saw Jericho, who you would think at least would be entertaining. Honest to God, was not in my eyes. He was also uninteresting, which is a really tough thing to do. And I don't think that's Jericho's fault at all. I just think that the whole vibe of this whole show was just phoned in and uninteresting. But the only thing I will say that Thunder seems to be pushing away from the recaps from Nitro. Like this was only an hour and a half long.
In there, and that was a great comment. Like I know we haven't talked about it in a bit, but it really has not been the recap show like it's been previously, and I'm glad to see it's its own thing now.
Well, it's also helping that it's not a 3-hour show anymore. I think it's now jumped down to 2 hours because
it was
the first couple weeks
opening episode.
Oh, I thought it was the first three. I thought the first three were 3 hours, and they dropped it down. But either way, like once you lose an hour of production, you're going to go away a little bit from the recaps. But what they're doing now is they're creating these little what you call packages, and kind of doing the story that way, or at least trying to sell the wrestlers and getting them over in their own way. You had the Lex Luger one, you had I think the Giant, you had Jericho, you had the Macho Man, whatever stupid Man of the Year thing. So, I mean, I think that's a trend in the good direction, but that is the only saving grace of this whole show.
I think I'm going to disagree with you on that. And I do think it was better than last week's show where I thought every match was fucking awful last week. I didn't rate a single one. I think my highest was a 2-star match. So I will say some of the matches were better. I do wish overall that some of these matches could have been better. I mean, it still wasn't the best Thunder or even a...
You had a double main event where both didn't have endings. No, that's the other thing that really made this trend down a lot, too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's every episode of Thunder.
We've gone 9 straight weeks now without a clean finish in a main event. So, cross your fingers, guys. Episode 10 will be different next week. But that said, that's our show this week. So, if you haven't yet, go subscribe to us. We're on iTunes. We're on Google Play. You can always follow us on Twitter at Thundercraps. And you guys go to thundercraps.com for all of our past episodes, social media accounts, all that fun stuff. And, go check out episode 10, March 12th, 1998 edition of Thunder. As we get closer and closer to Uncensored, maybe we'll get that clean finish to the main event. Maybe we can get Macho Man to find out, if he does have some allies in the NWO. And ultimately, we'll find out if Kimberley is more attractive to Hogan. So, all those questions and more will get answered next week. For Kyle Hogan, for Josh Haddix, I am Josh Kaiser, and we will see you guys next time in the Thundercraps podcast.
Adios.
We are desperately out of time.